All right, everyone, welcome to the 7-Day Reinventing You Challenge. I could not be more thrilled today than to welcome our guest speaker, Ann Syson. Ann is a transformational confidence coach, a yoga teacher, and a Reiki master who believes it is possible to fall in love with your life. As a coach, she empowers you to see that the wild soul in you is something to not be ashamed of or to hide, but rather to embrace as a beautiful piece of your authentic self. It's time to take down your walls, shut down your inner negative self-talk, and show the world the real you. Ann is a powerhouse of experience and knowledge here to help you kick your life into gear. Welcome today, Ann. We're excited to have you.
Wow, thanks for that great introduction.
Well, I'm just speaking about you. I can't wait to hear your Reinventing You story. And again, this is the platform to share your story and let people know about what you've gone through as a coach, what it took in your own life, what experience you had, how you reinvented yourself, some tips and tricks and tools that you used, and how you help your clients today as a coach, as a transformational teacher. So please, could you dive into a story about reinventing your life and how you got to where you are today?
Oh, my story is a big one.
Okay, awesome.
It had to be, I don't know the amount of years anymore, but like 15 years ago, maybe, I got divorced.
Okay.
No real hard feelings. It was hard, of course, but we just weren't a match. And we didn't know it because we were so young when we got married. And I knew that there was more out there spiritually than what I had been given growing up. And it was different and weird. And I wanted to explore that. And that was kind of where I wanted to go with that. I was on my own for the first time, single mom. It had to be proven to me by my sister that I could actually afford that. I didn't believe I could. So there I was in this job that I really didn't like my job. I worked as a dental insurance coordinator, and it was like life-sucking. And I'm on my own for the first time, and I completely lost track of what I wanted to be doing. I got lost in is this all that my life is going to be? I don't even know how to get out of this. I'm not happy in my job. I don't know what I'm going to do with my life or how to get out of this apartment living. Like, it just seemed like there was this ceiling. And I felt very much like a victim. Now looking back on it, I can see that I was living like a victim.
So what does that mean to live like a victim? Like, what is that? Can you describe that a little bit?
Yeah, I would say that if you're living like a victim, you don't see that you have any control or any power over anything. Everyone else is to blame. Your circumstances are to blame. There's no way out. You just can't see it. So that's what I mean when I say that.
Okay.
And that's exactly how I was being. I was living like a victim. And I felt lonely and I was scared. And I believed that I had to have someone else in my life. I had to find love. I had to, otherwise there was no way out. So started dating. And in that dating, I was graspy. I was like that crazy girlfriend, the one where you're like, why isn't he texting? Why isn't he calling? And I drove everybody around me nuts. And I ended up falling really hard for a guy who was one of those charmer player types. You look back on it now, I always hindsight, right? So I look back on it now and I saw how addicted I was. And he was actually a narcissist. He would say things to me like, I'm never going to love you. We're not in a relationship, yet he lived with me. Like, right. We're not in a relationship. Like, what? And
wow.
I lacked the self-worth and the self-respect to kick him out because there was that. All those lows were followed by the high of him apologizing. It was that cycle that you get into, and it's addictive. Like, you're addicted to it. I can very much see how people would get addicted to drugs and alcohol because that's the same thing. That is it oxytocin that you get from that? Or is it, I can't think of the chemical that is released when you get that high from the relationship makeup.
I believe oxytocin is the loving drug, so the hormone, right? There's
Yeah,
dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins, and I think
right.
oxytocin is that love one. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was addicted to that. To every time I knew that there would be a high after the low, so I just kept him around for a while.
Yeah.
Until one day I found, I was driving everyone crazy, everyone. And they were like, leave him, kick him out, kick him out. And finally one day I found the self-respect and I told him it was over. And that night I spent like vomiting. I was so distraught. Like
So
just
that purging process was literal.
it,
Like you not only removed him, but you were really cleansing yourself. Like, holy, what did I just do? And wow.
yes, where did that come from? And now what? So
Yeah.
then it was like that fear set in, that now what? Now I'm really alone.
Yeah.
So I continued the friendship with him. I kept him around. Like, what was wrong with me?
Yeah.
And then you get stuck in like the cycle of shame. Like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I move on?
Mm.
And what's wrong with me? Why can't he see that I'm worth something? So you lose self-worth in that too. But I kept going, and like I said, I continued the friendship. I kept him around, and I kept driving people crazy. And it was 2008 during the time of the recession,
Mm.
and I ended up losing my job. And the job, while I didn't like it, it was kind of my lifeline. It was like that paid the bills.
Right.
That was everything I had. I had everything in that job because I didn't know how to do anything else.
Yeah.
So I was the only one let go. And looking back now, I can see that it was because I was in that cycle and driving everybody crazy.
Mm.
I brought that on myself.
Yeah, like the energy you were putting out and just the experience you were putting out to those around you was like intoxicating to a degree that they didn't want it around.
Exactly. I was becoming toxic.
Mm.
And in that friendship with him, I will add that there was binge drinking. He was a drinker, so therefore I was a drinker.
Mm.
So I would binge drink with him, not knowing at the time that I have celiac disease. So my reaction to it was worse than most people's. So I would call in sick to work a lot too.
Yeah.
I can see why they let me go.
Yeah.
But I also remembered a couple months in that I wanted to explore spirituality.
Mm.
I also knew that there was a time in my life when I wanted to go learn how to teach yoga. And at the time, my husband said, we can't afford that now. Well, here I am on my own. Nobody's telling me what to do anymore. Unemployment's coming in, and I had a retirement account, which I cashed in. And I used part of that money to go learn how to teach yoga. So it was a 9-month program in Chicago. So I had to drive like an hour once a week to go to this. And people thought I was nuts for spending a couple $1,000s out of a little pot of money that I had to live off of until I found another job. And I wasn't really looking very well for another job either because I don't want to do that anymore.
Yeah.
So I explored the spirituality. I found a group of people that believed in the things that I did so that I could learn and grow. And through that time, the yoga philosophies really spoke to me.
Mm.
A lot of people go to yoga school to learn how to teach the poses, and I was getting so much more out of the lectures,
Wow.
which says a lot because I hate sitting in lectures.
So there's like this, it seems like there was this degree of a calling, like you just had this inner knowingness that you wanted more in your life, you deserved more. And when you began to break down those walls, like you speak about, as you broke down the walls and you really recognized your own worth, you stepped into things. And even though the people around you were like, what are you doing? You're crazy. It didn't matter. Like you were in this relationship, you're crazy. Now you're seeking your spiritual development, you're crazy. Like it didn't matter which direction you went, you were still crazy.
Yep.
But you just followed that. And in this, you gained so much more than just how to teach yoga. You gained a whole maybe lesson of life. Please dive into that more.
Oh, I definitely learned life lessons there. Oh, yeah. And what yoga, the spirituality of yoga, that taught me. The biggest phrase that came out of that whole thing for me is be happy now. Be in the present moment. And I've carried that with me so long and so far, and in every situation. Because shortly after that, I ended up losing my apartment. So I lived with friends, kept going to yoga school, and I was in this process of rebuilding. I had to take another dental job, which was fine. I met new friends. It was great. I kind of started to look at them as stepping stones rather than roadblocks. Once I graduated yoga school, I got a job teaching yoga, which gave me a little bit of extra money, a little bit of experience, start to gain confidence, started to build my self-worth that way because I would get good feedback from the students. And then the group of people, I was starting to learn so much just about myself, about my resiliency, about all of that. And I sat down one day and made a list of everything I didn't want anymore in my life. And then I translated it into what I do want. That's one big thing that I do with people. We make that list because if you don't know what you don't want, how do you know what you do want?
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you do want, you surely must know what you don't want.
Yeah.
It's just, and I made a ritual out of it, actually. I made it just like a self-love night, and I had a fire in my fireplace. This was before I lost my apartment, but I really got comfortable with what I wanted and bought myself flowers and made myself my favorite dinner. I made it a me night and made it really special. And I folded that piece of paper up and I put it away and I forgot about it. And it's significant. I want to add that in there because the next part is kind of wild. So I was going to a seminar in Chicago for dental that I did not want to go to. Did not want to go. And I'm sitting on the train reading a book about spirituality. And it was the first time I picked up this book. The foreword in it was by this woman who was talking about her husband and how they connected spiritually and how they were so perfect for each other. I don't remember the details, but I just remember sitting there thinking, that's what I want. I want a connection like that. And I'm not going to go looking anymore. I'm going to focus on getting my life together, getting back out into a new apartment, fixing myself, and he's going to find me. And that's all there is to it. I'm done. I was done. And 4 hours later, it still kills me. It sounds so unbelievable, but 4 hours later, there I am in this, in McCormick Place in Chicago, and my phone buzzes, and it's a Facebook message. And now my husband and I dated earlier in life, when we were in high school, and he sent me a message, and I have not heard from him in a couple years. And it said, "Hey lady, how's it going?" And my heart flipped. It was just what? And yeah, we started texting back and forth from there. We exchanged numbers. He wanted to get together just to catch up. I was like, okay, I thought you were in Pennsylvania. He wasn't even in the state as far as I knew.
Yeah.
Turns out he was back, going through a divorce, and wanted to get together to talk with me.
Wow.
And I lived in Illinois and he lived in Wisconsin, 2.5 hours apart. But it just worked. I mean, there were ups and downs with us too, because I got so excited and I knew from our very first date that I was going to marry him. I told people this. And again, you're crazy. No, I'm not. But there were still ups and downs, and we didn't continue our relationship at that point because he was still going through his divorce and there were things that he had to work out. Yeah. But so did I. And I could feel myself starting to get into the looking for every text from him. That same cycle was starting within me. Sure. And at the same time, he backed off. And I was devastated at first, but then I was like, well, wait a second. I was doing me right now anyway. So if this isn't going to work, it's not going to work. No big deal. Yeah. Be happy now. you know?
Yeah.
So yeah, within 4 months we were together, and we've not stopped.
That is so
So
amazing.
yeah.
I can't help but like, I've been like trying to hold back tears just in your process, your journey, because, you know, just a part of getting clear and taking that self-care time. Like, I think that's such an important tool that you used in your really getting clear on what you wanted for your life. And really that self-nurturing practice of, I may not have much from a financial perspective, but I deserve this enough to give myself flowers or to light a candle and to sit here and recognize I may not have it now, but this is what I want. And there's nothing wrong with that. And this is what I don't want. And I have every right to not want this anymore. I can want more and I can seek more. And just setting that intention and then going about your life. And the things that you were exposing yourself with, the community that you were shifting yourself, the going to yoga school shifted your whole perception because you were gaining this new knowledge and information that allowed you to no longer think of, questioning your self-worth and, being that victim, but about just embracing life for being happy now, being present, and going after what you want. Like, what an amazing story. And I think it just resonates with me so much because I'm newly divorced, and you feel that shakenness of your life is kind of turned upside down, and there's judgment around you, but you know in your heart what was right, like regardless. And going into the dating scene and the awkwardness of that, like that's so interesting in itself, right? Like right?
Yep.
I mean, you're not there right now, but I am, and it's weird.
I can't even imagine it now. I mean, we're talking 8 years ago, but
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, I absolutely like, it's just so insightful, your story, going from divorced mother, no money, job you didn't like, victim mentality, you're lonely and scared, you lacked self-worth, you were in this roller coaster relationship that you were seeking the high that was unhealthy, but you were just up and down in that. You were in fear and shame mode. You were questioning your worth. You lost your job and you turned your entire life around. Would you attribute that? What would be the biggest things that you would attribute that to, of being able to really turn your life around?
I definitely attribute that to energy. Biggest thing is energy.
Can you
I believe,
that a little bit?
yeah, I believe firmly that what you put out into the world is being mirrored back to you. So if you're putting out self-worth, lack of self-worth, I should say, if you're putting that out, or if you don't have the respect for yourself, no one's going to respect you. That's going to be reflected back to you. How you feel about yourself is reflected back to you.
Yeah.
And if you're focusing solely on what you don't have, you're always going to be in the don't have mode. I guess it's a lot of law of attraction, but also I really do believe a lot in the yoga philosophies and just the earth around us. I mean, all of it. If you get to be so connected, we are so connected. We don't realize how connected we are to one another, to everything around us energetically.
Yeah.
So I think that I would attribute it to just turning the perspective around.
Yeah.
Realizing what I want, what I don't want, and that I am worth it.
Yeah.
Right.
That makes a lot of sense. It's almost like, you walk into a party and you can feel like when we talk about energy, some people may not be real familiar with it. So it's sometimes helpful to give an example story. So like, I like to give the example, you walk into a party and everything in you tells you to leave. And there's nothing you're seeing, you're not even talking to anybody, but you feel within your mind and body that I shouldn't be here. And you make the decision from that point. I follow my gut instinct and I turn around or I go in. And what you experience will be the energy in that space. And you may have a horrible time, horrible party, bad things happen. And you're like, I should have followed my gut, or you leave And then in following your gut, you may have this beautiful awakening of, I don't know, I ran into a friend going down the stairs and we had a fun night and went out to eat and, built this great bond, So when you speak to energy, it's really that inner knowingness, because it's like, you can't see it, but it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Exactly.
It's
And I
right there
try,
around us, all around us.
yeah. And that gut feeling that you're talking about, I try to tell people to notice how all sorts of situations feel in their bodies.
Mm-hmm.
If you feel happy and excited, where does it show up? How does it feel?
Yeah.
And if you feel bad or sad or mad, where are you feeling it? Or scared? Where does fear show up? Because our mind is our body is our mind. It's all connected.
Yeah.
And however you're feeling is probably what's going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
So it's important. It's really important to know how you feel so that you can recognize a situation like you just described.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and even in the self-worth piece that you're referring to, that lack mentality, it's really hard to create more in your life when you're thinking about everything that you don't have versus, like you're saying, create that list of what you do want. And if you're not clear of what you do want, write out everything you don't want. And the opposite is probably what you do want, right?
Exactly.
Your guidance system.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. I absolutely love it. I mean, your story probably resonates with me more than any that have been shared for the 7-day challenge. And maybe it's because of the position I'm in life, but also because it's just such a great model of, we all go through it. Like, we all have this reinventing story, and maybe not to the degree you have it, and maybe not in the same circumstance, but it can be in finance, it can be in career. I mean, to be honest, you dealt with it in finances, you dealt with it in career, you dealt with it in relationships, you dealt with it in self-worth, you dealt with it in spirituality. I think you pretty much covered everything, every topic that we could probably cover in the 7-day challenge. You hit it, girl. Your life is really, you've turned it around. You've created, and now you have taken this knowledge and this knowingness and this love of self, and you now serve and make a difference in the world through your transformational coaching and your yoga and Reiki. And I think that, what a beautiful gift. What a beautiful transformation. I cannot thank you enough for taking the time to share your story and, the tools that you use to get yourself out of that situation. Is there anything you wanted to close with, or any other tool or thought or idea that you would like to share in closing?
Oh, I had notes and I didn't use any of them.
That's okay.
I don't know where anything is at. Yeah, I think we talked about alignment and the present moment. Be here, be happy now. If anybody has a problem or you don't understand how to just be here now, look around you and name the things that are around your surroundings right now. Like computer, chair, plant, light, like start naming things and really get into your body with your breath. The breath that really works for me, and I learned it from John Osseroff. He's great. Is you take 6 deep breaths, but you inhale through your nose really slow, and then you exhale through your mouth, but like a straw. And you do it 6 times, and that supposedly resets your circuits.
I instantly just became calm in the moment. Like, wow.
Right. I use that a lot in the middle of the night if I wake up and can't fall back asleep because thoughts start running. Like I teach about the inner mean girl, and that time at night, man, that's horrible. So inner mean guy too. I mean, there's men watching this too, right? We all have that voice. My husband pointed that out. He's like, you're just speaking to women, but men need you too. He's like, oh. But anyway, taking those 6 breaths though, John Osseroff says that resets your circuits, and it does, because then you can think rationally and logically. And then you can realize that you are right here, right now, and you're likely safe. Like, you're safe right now where you are. The future hasn't happened yet, and it can go in any direction you want it to. You have control over it. But resetting your circuits gives you that logical brain to where you can think about what your next steps could be.
Yeah.
or just realize that you're here right now and you can fall asleep because you're safe.
Yeah.
That's another tool I really love. And then gratitude. What do you have to be thankful for right now?
Yeah.
I know everybody talks about gratitude, and I used to roll my eyes at it, but it works.
Yeah.
So if you're not thankful for what you have, how can you have more?
Yeah. That's
So,
beautiful. I
yeah,
love it. Thank you so much. And where can people find you? I will provide the links, but where can you name off your?
well, my website is long. It's Tranquil Warrior Yoga and Life Coaching.
Okay.
I am on Facebook, Ann Syson Confidence Coaching. I think I have it right now. I switched it a couple times. And Ann Syson Coaching on Instagram. I'm there too.
Awesome. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate your time. This was amazing.
Thank you for having me.
We'll talk to you soon. Thank you.
Okay.